It often feels like we're chasing two totally separate goals, right? On one hand, you want to be physically strong, and on the other, you just want to feel, well, calm. But what if the path to getting both wasn't separate at all? What if it was actually way simpler and more connected than we've been led to believe? Let's dive in and see what the science really has to say.
I mean, really think about it. What if there was a way to just cut through all the noise, all the confusing advice out there, and build a genuinely powerful body and a centered mind using just a few solid, science-backed principles? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into today. Okay, so let's start with strength. I mean, the fitness world is just absolutely flooded with advice, isn't it? But here's the thing. A ton of it just isn't backed by solid research. So let's cut right through that clutter and look at what the evidence actually shows us. And we're going to start by busting a huge myth that's probably holding a lot of you back.
So here's the big one. You gotta lift heavy to get big. We've all heard it a million times, right? But the idea that you have to be slinging around massive barbells to get strong, well, it's just a myth. The research actually points to something much more interesting. It's not about the weight on the bar, it's about the effort you're putting in. The real magic happens when you train to that point where you physically cannot do one more rep with good form.
And that point has a name. It's called momentary muscular failure. And honestly, this is a total game changer. See, that's the moment you've forced your body to recruit every last available muscle fiber, from those smaller, endurance-focused ones all the way up to the big, powerful ones that only show up to the party when you are giving it absolutely everything. So just burn this into your brain. It's not about the weight, it's about the effort.
Okay, so if effort is key, what about volume? How many sets you should do? The common wisdom is always more is better, right? Do 3 sets, 5 sets, 10 sets. But what if that's not the whole picture? What if just one single, perfectly intense set could get you the exact same results? The evidence here is probably going to surprise you. And I'm not just saying that. Get this. A massive review went through 35 different studies on this very topic. And the results were, well, they were stunning. In 33 out of those 35 studies, that's nearly 95% of them, doing a single intense set to failure was just as effective as grinding out multiple sets. Just let that sink in for a second. Think of all the time you could save in the gym without losing any of the gains.
So, what does this mean for your actual workout? Let's boil it down into a simple, evidence-based blueprint. First, intensity. You're going to train to momentary muscular failure. Second, volume. One good set per exercise is plenty. Third, frequency. Hit each muscle group just once or twice a week. And finally, speed. Forget throwing weights around. Slow, controlled movements are what keep the tension on the muscle. That's it. That's just simple, scientifically backed path to getting stronger way more efficiently.
All right, let's tackle the great debate. Free weights versus machines. You hear all this talk about functional strength and muscle activation, but here's the bottom line. When you actually look at the studies on strength gains, there's no significant difference. Your muscles honestly don't care if the resistance is coming from a dumbbell or a machine. They just know they're under load and have to adapt. But, and this is a really big but, there's something else you absolutely have to consider: safety. Check out this number. A major study on weight training injuries found that a staggering 90.4% of them were associated with free weights. Now look, any exercise has some risk, but that data is pretty darn clear. Machines are just a much safer way to apply resistance, especially if you're just starting out.
Yeah, but what about balance, I hear you say? It's the number one argument for free weights, right? Well, the science of skill acquisition just doesn't support it. Balance is a highly specific skill. Getting really good at balancing a heavy barbell on your back is, well, it's going to make you really good at balancing a heavy barbell on your back. It's not going to magically make you a better tennis player. If you want to get better at a sport, you have to practice that specific sport. It really is that simple.
Okay, so that's our blueprint for strength. Super simple, super effective. Now, let's shift gears and talk about the other side of the coin: calm. The key to finding that inner sense of peace isn't some mystical secret. It's about understanding the control panel inside your own body and learning how to use the one built-in remote control you already have.
So let me introduce you to your autonomic nervous system, or the ANS for short. Think of it as the ultimate autopilot for your body. It runs all the background processes you never think about: your heart rate, your digestion, all that stuff. And this system is basically a constant tug of war between two opposing sides.
And honestly, the easiest way to think about it is like a car. You've got a gas pedal and a brake pedal. Your sympathetic system, that's the gas pedal. It revs you up, gets you ready for action. That's your classic fight or flight response. And your parasympathetic system,
That's the break. It slows everything down, helps you chill out, and promotes that calm rest and digest state. How you feel at any given moment is just the balance between these two. Okay, now this is where it gets really cool. Almost everything your ANS does is completely automatic, right? You can't just decide to slow your heart rate. But breathing is the one exception. It's both automatic and voluntary. And because of that unique connection, your breath becomes your superpower. It is the literal remote control you can use to tap into this automatic system and deliberately calm yourself down. So, how do you actually use this superpower? Let's get practical. I'm going to show you a couple of dead simple proven techniques that can give you immediate control over your stress levels.
First up, we have something called box breathing, and it's exactly as simple as it sounds. Just picture a square. You're going to inhale through your nose for a count of 4, hold your breath for 4, exhale slowly for 4, and then hold your lungs empty for 4. That's one box. This simple, even rhythm is incredibly powerful for calming your nervous system down. Seriously, you can even try one right now.
And don't just take my word for it. The results are real. Studies have shown that doing this for just a few minutes can slash anxiety by a whopping 35%. And that's not just, feeling better. That is a real, measurable, physiological change in your body's stress response. And hey, if you need any more proof, get this. This exact technique is used extensively by Navy SEALs to manage stress and stay focused under the most intense pressure imaginable. So yeah, if it works for them in a combat zone, it's definitely going to work for you during a stressful day at work. All right, next up is diaphragmatic or belly breathing. This is all about getting back to the way we're naturally supposed to breathe. See, when we get stressed, we start taking these short, shallow breaths from our chest. This technique retrains you to breathe deep into your belly. When you do that, when you feel your belly rise and fall, you're actually stimulating something called the vagus nerve, which is basically the superhighway for your body's relaxation response. And again, the physical effects are just incredible. Just look at these numbers. Proper belly breathing can increase your blood's oxygen saturation by up to 11% and cut your respiratory rate by as much as half. You are literally changing your body's chemistry in real time just by changing how you breathe. So there you have it. We've looked at the surprising science of building strength, and we've uncovered the simple art of finding calm. So now let's put it all together. What does this unified mind-body blueprint actually look like? Here it is, your 2-part blueprint for mastery. On the strength side, it's simple. Train with maximum effort, not maximum weight. And remember, one intense, focused set is often all you need. On the calm side, use your breath as your remote control, focusing on slow exhales to hit your body's brake pedal. And practice a simple technique like box breathing for just 5 minutes a day. That's it, no complications. That is your direct path to a stronger body and a calmer mind. So now you have the blueprint. You have the science for your muscles, and you have the remote control for your nerves. The power is literally in your hands. The only question left is, what are you going to build with it?